have very good idea about ERPs, um, but very limited idea about dynamics. For those who know so much, for those who have an idea about dynamics, I would also will be needing your um, help to share your experiences as much as possible, as regards, hopefully we'll have those time where we'll probably ask questions and need your contributions. Right. So thank you very much for those who shared their thoughts. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts. Let's now dive deep into the course and basically learn some things about dynamics today and why dynamics is a very, very good career to sit in right now. And one of the things I like about dynamics is the number one, the company, Microsoft. Of course, we have known that Microsoft has been existing for decades, even more than SAP and well, yeah, probably more than Oracle, but I will check. It has been in existence for a long time. It has led transformation in a lot of IT solutions. Of course, look at your Microsoft Word, for example, your Excel, your PowerPoint and all that application. Look at 365 and and look at Azure DevOps. Look at Power Platform. Look at Power Automate. Look at I mean I think that's the beauty of Microsoft. It's an environment that is always evolving, and to have an ERP in that same environment is they are of course one of the leaders of AI right now. So you can imagine what will happen in the next few years. SAP is also a very, very massive platform. I just feel that Dynamics has this because the ERP evolved from because they have had a lot of they have solutions that have been used to solve business problem over the years, not ERPs. So and they have this ERP solution that can integrate with, for example, as much as Excel, or any other solution that ordinary users can relate with. And it's a massive platform. They have I can't begin to name solutions we have been using that has been created by Microsoft before now. So it's a very interesting environment. It's not as large as SAP because SAP is a very massive ERP, but it has that potential to probably outgrow itself. And the integrations, the APIs, the solutions that goes around with it. I mean, it's just awesome. It's a very remarkable environment to be in. So having said that, let's just look at basically, um, let's just look at Microsoft Dynamics and see what we have to learn. So the first question here is, what is Microsoft Dynamics? The first question. Before I answer this question, just give me a moment. Let me get my board out, and hopefully we can enjoy just knowing about this session. Yep. So this is the Microsoft board. Again, another very interesting solutions if you want to write, if taking notes and all that in your session. So we have what is Microsoft, what is D365? And you're going to see different names we call it, but it is called Finance and Operations, owned by Microsoft. You also hear the word Dynamics 365. You also see D365. There are so many names, but we'll get to that. So what is D365 F and O? First thing you must know about it is Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations is commonly called D365 F and O. So note that when you probably go on it online or you're looking for jobs, you most likely be seeing D365 F&O, F&O, F&O. That's a common name we call it, within the industry. You can also see Dynamics 365. There are a lot of names. But at the end of the day, the full name is called Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations. Two major words that came into one: finance and operations. And we'll see how those two words drive the transformation, within a business. And it is number one is or number two is a cloud-based enterprise resource planning solution designed for medium to large organizations. So another thing you must know about Dynamics is it's cloud-based, and we have a lot of architecture around ERPs. We have those that are hybrid, we have those that are on-site or on a certain on a location. Then we have those that are cloud-enabled or cloud-based. So Dynamics is doesn't have the on-site, what we call, forgotten this terminology, but you can host it on a server in your office. It's cloud-based. So take note about that. And number two is it's an ERP. That's one very big concept we'll need to break down as we move forward. So we need to understand what is an ERP. If we say Dynamics is a cloud-based, we know what cloud-based mean. We mean that it's sitting somewhere in the cloud. When something is sitting in the cloud, it means you can access it from anywhere in the world, and that's beautiful. We have a lot of examples. If you use OneDrive, or you are for example, this meeting we have now is a remote meeting, so anywhere anybody can connect from anywhere in the world. And but the idea of cloud means that it's hosted in the cloud and you can access it from wherever you are in the world. And the next thing is it is an ERP, and it's very specific. It didn't say it's a software, because there's a difference between an accounting software and an ERP. We'll go into that deeper, but ERP means enterprise resource planning, and I'll probably break down that for you in the next slide. But let's move on. And it is designed. Another thing you must note is it's designed for industries or for companies that are major, medium size based and are moving, towards large enterprises. And I would say very, very, very correct, because I have worked with a large, company that sits on Dynamics, but the operation is not as complex. So it depends on the nature of the business, what they do, and their operations. But certainly large, very well, because where I worked, they were probably in 25 locations around the world. I mean, one of those Fortune, FTSE 150, that means they are quite large. So good, very confirmed. So it's for medium to large scale businesses, and it's based in the cloud, and it's an ERP. Three things you should now know about Dynamics, and it's called D365 F and O. The software is called Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations, but we'll see that breakdown as we move on. So it's designed for medium to large organizations to manage, number one, finance operations. I'm a finance person, so I can, explain basically what finance operations are. Every business has a finance department, for example. There is no business that can exist without a finance department. No matter how small you are, you need to have somebody who is managing how you generate funds. No, not how you manage your funds when they have been generated, and make sure that you're complying with certain regulations within your country. And that is basically where finance operations sits. End to end, business transactions, relationship with customers, suppliers, banks, you know, then of course you have to comply with international reporting standards. You have to comply with local requirements, financial requirements. You have to make sure your financial statement or your books are prepared according to certain laws, depending on the size of your business. That's why that is one of the things it's designed to do, to manage all those operations around finance. Two, to also manage supply chain processes, sourcing, procurement, sales, delivery, and everything that has to do with getting the necessary materials you need or the necessary inventory you need, and selling it to who needs it. end to end. That is what we talk about supply chain. So it's right from sourcing it, and engages. There's also involvement with. There's also vendor management side of things. There's customer management. There's delivery. There's the supply chain um, you know process end to end. So it manages that. Manufacturing is a very strong point for Microsoft Dynamics. If you work in an industry that transforms raw materials into finished goods, or you know builds, or does job costing, what we call job costing. For example, in the carpentry business, no two orders are the same, right? Somebody can say I need a chair that has three seaters. Somebody can say I need just a local chair in my kitchen. So manufacturing is a very complex process, and it depends on the industry again. The manufacturing process for a nuclear plant is different from the manufacturing process for somebody who manufactures bottled water. But at the end of the day, manufacturing is one of those key activities that it manages. Project accounting is a core module within D365. So basically around making sure that those organizations that are involved in projects, all the project you know project activities are well accounted for, and basically accounted for, and make sure that project is successful. It also manages global compliance. I think one of the beauty of Dynamics is, irrespective of where your company is in the world, every country has certain requirements on how they run their operations, on how your company should act in certain circumstances. So it supports that. And at the end, it integrates finance, operations, and analytics into one unified platform. I think this is one of the strengths of Microsoft Dynamics D365. So, of course, as an ERP, that's the strength. Integrate these resources across the business, and that's where we are. Um, so, what is an ERP? We'll take our time to explain that much later. But ERP basically is enterprise resource planning, and it's coined out of three words. One is enterprise, meaning business. Sorry about that. I think my screen just skipped on me. Yeah, one is enterprise. Enterprise means a business adventure. Two is resource. Within an enterprise, there are different resources. There are human resources, there are capital resources, there are services, there are a lot of things that happen within an enterprise. And planning. Planning is basically around making sure that those resources within the enterprise are utilized for the purpose for which they have been set up. So really the idea of enterprise resource planning is to, have what we call, it's a system, it's a comprehensive system that integrates and automates core business processes into one. So it starts central nervous system of organization, allowing different departments or different processes to share information seamlessly from single to unified database. I won't go deep into that, but the idea here is that finance is a department, sales is a department, procurement is a department. These three departments need to share information within themselves to be able to make the business profitable. So if you look at a typical procurement, ideally somebody procures, and I think because of the want of time, we won't go so deep into that. But if you look at a typical procurement, somebody procures. When you procure, probably it hits the warehouse and it's available. And what does sales do? Sales will tell the customer that these are available, depending on the nature of the business. Sells what is available, and finance is basically on both sides, making sure that um, we track things like payables, we track things like receivables, debts that are owed are well documented, and we're able to make payments for services we have consumed. So if information is not shared between the procurement and the sales team, it will be difficult for finance to probably do their work. So the idea of ARP is just that collaboration across business processes to be able to, support with the operations of the business. When we're going to have a session for this, so we'll have our time to really break down this concept to make you understand it as much as possible. For the want of time, I'm just going to be a little bit fast. So technically, if you look at the idea, the module called finance and operation is broken down into two parts. One is dynamics finance, and the second is supply chain management. So if you're coming into the space, you have to probably sit within one of these two different modules, which we call the modular applications. So Dynamics is the name of the ERP is Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations. But in terms of the module, the way it's structured, you would, if you have consultants, you see people sitting within finance and people sitting within supply chain. But let's look, and that's where the career comes. That's where, different people would probably sit in different roles if you look at the career within Dynamics. So if you're a supply chain person, you like procurement, you like sales, you like projects, no, project is in finance, you like CRM, you most likely sit within a supply chain or the operations side of things. If you like finance, you like, banking, project accounting, and all the bits that have to do with finance, then you'll probably be sitting in the finance space. You see, but if you use the system like SAP, it's a little bit more exposed or more wider. You have more wider options. But this is but we'll see, we'll break this down as we move on. Just look at the different names we call it in case you see it out there. So there are different names. Like I said, there's Microsoft Dynamics F&O, Dynamics F&O, D365 F&O. We also have AX. In case you see AX, it's the old version that moved. Before it was sitting on AX, and it now moved to Dynamics D365 Finance and Operations. So AX is the older version of the ERP. In case you also see that outside. What's the core purpose really of Microsoft Dynamics D365? What's the core purpose? If you look here, really, the core purpose is to provide that unified cloud-based ERP platform. It's just to provide that ERP platform for mid-sized to large-scale businesses, and that platform should be able to, that platform, should automate, automate business processes, integrate processes, and optimize complex business processes for medium to large enterprises. That is basically the purpose of F&O. It is it is to create that ERP experience, right, where processes speak to each other, and automations are done within the system to be able to make in routine tasks a little bit more quicker. And of course, like I said, it is to simplify complex business processes in medium to large scale businesses. And also, if you look at the how the D365 support businesses, one, you're going to see here that it manages business operations. Two, it automates finance processes, very important. Three, it improves operational efficiency. Four, help you to maintain regulatory compliance. And of course, gives you you gain that real insights into you gain that real business insight. So with D365, you're able to make quicker decisions within that mid to large scale businesses. Um, if you look at the key strategy, basically I will run through this, just unifies disconnected systems, data-driven decisions. I mean, there's a lot of um, focus into insights, taking data within the business to be able to help managers make quick and well-proven decisions, automates manual processes. So if you have manual processes within the system, um, D365 have functionalities within the system that can help you automate those processes, and of course, enable global scalability as much as possible. So if you're growing between the mid to large scale businesses, you're able to scale through using with Microsoft Dynamics, and of course, optimize operational efficiency and optimize operational efficiency really. Now, in the next part, we're going to be looking at the core functions. Like we've said, one of the core functions is financial management, supply chain and logistics, manufacturing, project operations, and asset management. These are some of the core areas that you would most likely find Microsoft Dynamics sitting. So, financial management, logistics, manufacturing, project operations, and asset management. I think that's where we're going to. This is basically just giving you the core functional areas. At this point, I would just like to, for the want of time, I would just want to go through the, because there's still a lot to talk about, but what is most important for us here, I'll go through the family and briefly go through the careers. Then we can wrap up this session. So, and this is very, very good information for us. So just a minute, let me show you what you need to know about,